Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, frequent flyers. Today in the lounge, I have Ericka Glorious Moore because it is more glorious when Ericka is in the room. That is actually how she was introduced by her college professor, and Glorious was her grandmother's name. I love the symbiotic nature of that and how we get to honor our elders and make that a big part of who we are and how we show up in the world. Today, we are talking about self talk for the exacting professional. When we are in a high paced industry, there's often a lot of pressure to be perfect. But, my friends, there is no such thing. Oftentimes, the inner talk that's going on in our own minds is our own worst enemy, and we either prevent ourselves from taking that first step forward, or we start to spiral and we end up on a path of trajectory that is not where we intended. We take a shower daily to keep our bodies clean, so why wouldn't we do the thing to clean all the muck out of our own minds? That's why we have Ericka here with us today. Ericka, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be asked, Sarah.
Yeah. So you and I met because you were at a book fair at the local library where my grandfather was as well. And you were both selling your books. I know you're a motivational speaker, you are a mental health coach and entrepreneur, and you have over 15 years in an intense field of design. Can you
Yes.
tell me a little bit more about why you decided to write a book?
Well, I'm in the middle of my second book, but the very first book was
Beautiful.
for girls and women. It was talking about my life, how I had got bullied, low self esteem, wanted to kill myself in the fourth grade. I mean, I just didn't want to
Wow.
go on. And I talked
Yeah.
about how to overcome that to get to the place I am today. So it's kind of like my journey all the way from elementary school all the way till today. And
Yeah.
so I felt I didn't want girls and women and even men to take as long as it took me to know my value and know my purpose. And I
I
wanted them to
love
know
that.
that longer in life. So that's why I wrote that first book. Yeah.
That's powerful, and it's quite provocative as well because a lot of times we have been shamed into thinking that mental health is something that we don't talk about, that we should just be positive all the time, right? Everything is great, and we go into that toxic positivity, and yet here you were sharing a very vulnerable part of your story, and focusing on mental health, and so, as you know, um, we are often in the world of we have to do more, we have to achieve high things, and we have to go, 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 go. What was that like for you in your younger years? Was that a big part of the narrative that you had? And is that something that impacted your mental health?
Absolutely. I felt like I had to be perfect because
Mhm.
I dealt with the low self esteem. I figured I had to change who I was to fit.
Mm,
So I wasn't even my true self. I didn't even know who I really was
yeah.
until I would probably say into my 30s. Like, what does Erica actually like? What is she? I was just trying to fit into the mold because I just wanted to be accepted.
Yeah.
So it
And
was very difficult.
that's a very human emotion, right? We all want to be accepted, and it directly ties to survival, right? If we were not accepted, we would get kicked out of the tribe, and we were more susceptible to not having food or maybe getting eaten by the saber-toothed tiger. And so that's a very real thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. But very often in our parents or caregivers wanting us to succeed, they then put these pressures on us that we take on as our own, and when we don't hit them or we set impossible standards, our mental health starts to suffer. So, when you were growing up, you said you had started to have these suicidal thoughts already at a very young age. Do you remember there being a turning point in which you were able to see that light at the end of the tunnel and switch your thinking to a different track?
That didn't happen until later in life, unfortunately. During that time, it was still survival of the fittest in my
Mm,
thought process. That didn't happen until many, many years later. I still was using all the coping mechanisms to let me do perfectionism, let me make sure outside is perfect, make sure
yeah.
I just want to do the best I can. And that didn't come from my parents, that came mostly from my peers and trying to fit in because I just
Mm,
felt like I wasn't part of the world. I just never
mm,
felt like I made impact because even being mixed, I would always have like African Americans, they say, "Oh, you're not one of us." Then white people would say, Caucasians would say, "Oh, we don't want you around us." So I was even trying to figure out where to fit in, just even being mixed. So
oh,
I didn't even
absolutely.
know. So that was another part of the puzzle too.
Absolutely. And this touches on a really great point because a lot of us live all around the world, especially people in aviation and aerospace. We're dealing with international cultures all the time. You might be based at a different military base or be at an expatriate posting. And so you are now trying to find out, what is your identity, right?
Yes.
Who are you? Because you are now the different one in this group of people. And then you go home, but you're also different than you were when you left. And so this is the same for if you move away from your hometown, or all of a sudden you start studying a certain degree, and you go back to your old friendship group and they're more artistic, but you've just studied engineering, right? There's this disconnect in this gap.
Yeah.
So how did you begin that journey of starting to figure out who you were and let that come forth rather than the achievement, the doing?
So I'm a Christian. So one of the first things that started when I was 17 years old is I got to know about God and know that He loved me. That was the beginning parts. So when I was 17 years old, but that still wasn't even it. Again, it still took time even from there to love myself. I felt
Mm,
guilty to love myself.
yes.
I felt guilty to say what I wanted. I still felt bad because it's like I felt like I was selfish and not thinking about others because I'm so driven to help others and to think about others. And especially, you probably agree with this as women, that we can be so focused on other people that we're dying in the end.
Yes.
So always being the strong one, always being the happy one, always doing that, still carried in, even with knowing who God was in my life, still had to go into more of what that even meant. That still took time to even get to that. And if you want to tell me when did that actually happen, I can tell you that.
Yeah, well, when was that? When did you start to, give yourself that permission to love yourself without feeling guilty for that?
Oh yeah. So that was like 30s into early 40s.
Okay. Was there a
So
specific practice that helped you with it?
yeah, well, the one thing that began was that I am responsible for my life
Mm,
and I am in charge. When I heard my mentor tell me that one time, because I was at a very toxic job at that time, that was when I was actually ready to take take my life. I had a plan. It was on the 4th of July some years back, and she was like, "You're still at that job?" And I go, "Yeah." And she says, she says, "Well, you could quit that job." She says, "I'm not in charge if you take that job, or nobody else is in charge." And that was the first time that I was like, "Whoa, I'm in charge. I can actually do what Erica wants to do." I didn't even know that, which
right.
is pretty sad, but I
Well,
didn't.
and I think it's quite common. You and I talked about that when we first connected. And, I know I went through the same thing. A lot of people I speak to, there's always this turning point when they start to realize, hey, I can make a different choice. And
Yes,
it's taking that ownership and that responsibility for your choices that enables you to start making different ones.
yes, yes. That's where the freedom began. And
Beautiful.
I felt so like this weight was lifted off of me, literally. Like, wait a minute, I don't have to live this way. I don't have to feel anxious. I don't have to feel like the less person in the room. Because if it was you and I in the room and then somebody else, I automatically put myself down here.
Wow.
Automatically.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I automatically said, I don't qualify. I don't deserve to be around them. Everybody else was better
Mm,
than me. I was this broken, damaged goods girl that was it for her life. And that was the script that I had in my mind for several years.
yes. I love that you just said the script, because that's what it is, this internal narrative we have. And that's how I've found the quote for our podcast today. Make sure your worst enemy is not living between your two ears,
Yes.
because very often that's exactly where it is. And when we give our agency and our sovereignty away, it might be easier in that moment to blame the system or the
Mhm.
school or my parents or my partner or whatever it is, the rain outside.
Right.
In that moment, it might feel easier, but it actually degrades you over and over,
Yes.
and you feel like there's no other option. But
Mhm.
again, that's just the story in your mind.
Right.
And so that having that mentor, that person to help you uncover that, wow, that must have been like a breath of fresh air.
Yes, it was very empowering. It actually was very emotional because for so many years I lived for everyone else and I lived
Mm,
to the identity of what I thought others wanted me to be. and I could never attain it because everybody has different opinions of a
Of
person.
course.
And so it was very exhausting. So to hear that was like, I was like, wait a minute, I can take charge. I don't
Mm,
have to allow my mind to continue to do these things. I don't have to be in these friendships that I don't feel comfortable in. I don't have to look at myself and hate the way my body looks. I don't, or how I look because I felt like I never fit in. I'm going to love who I am, who God made me to be, and all the talents and abilities, my personality, everything about me. I'm just gonna finally love Erica, and it took a long time, but I'm so grateful for where I am today. So
that
my heart is just, I just really want to help people to get to that place and give them tips and things that I do, and I share my life so that they don't have to take as long. That's the biggest part for me. I don't want them,
mm,
especially girls and little kids when they're little. There was this. I just want to share real quick this story. I
absolutely.
created these little cards. They're called "I Understand" on the front, um, and on the back it has the suicide prevention hotline and the crisis text line. And this was, like I said, some years ago when I had that those suicidal thoughts and really actually had a plan at that point. And as I was going through this the whole valley and everything, I created these cards. So on the back, people write, "It'll get better, keep going," and all that. Well, they got delivered to the crisis floor at the hospital, to those that are actually dealing with suicidal thoughts, and to people that are getting treatment for mental health wellness. So they were put in the offices there. Well, I went into my bank and I was sharing it with one of the tellers, and I showed her my cards and everything. So the following week, she pulls me to the side. She's, "Erica," and I'm like, "What?" And she says, "My nephew, he had attempted. It just failed, but he had went through with the suicidal act. He was 9 years old, and that was
Wow.
who I was when I wanted to kill myself." And his 6-year-old his sister found him, and so she's like, they're all the little boy's in the hospital. Her nephew was in the hospital. The family's all in counseling, and so she says, "Erica, I want to get these cards, and these cards I have. No one, there's no, I don't make any money off them. It's just
Yeah.
awareness. Like my goal is to get a million of them out. Like just I want them everywhere." But
Yeah.
it was just like showing that. 9 years old, that this little boy went through it, and thank God he didn't achieve the goal, that he's still here, but something inside of him, he already has a script
Right.
to give up.
And so these cards are helping you to have those reminders, right? It's what I'm hearing is it's really setting the system around you, the environment around you to be supportive of
Yes,
more positive thoughts and more acceptance, right? Because also it's we don't want to reject and shame and demean that this ever happened.
right.
It's okay to not be okay. And I'm here for you and it will get better. And even if it's still tough, it's going to be okay,
Yeah,
right? A
yes.
lot of studies have shown that if we just say it's going to work out, right, then there's a resistance to this because people say, "Well, how do you know that?"
Hmm.
And what we can do instead is say, "I am here for you." And it might be shit. It might be terrible, and that's okay, and I will be here. And that's what these cards are doing for people, and I think that is so brave of you to share your story so openly and to also be so driven in this mission to help others because, I mean, it is just terrible that at these young ages we have these narratives,
Yes,
and so what we can do to pull people over, help shine the light, be that light so that they can see it and find their own hope just like your mentor was for you.
yes, yes. And through that, when you have different hits that come at you, so there was reasons why that happened. So I had, the bullying, all that with so low self-esteem and all this. I had that narrative going on. But then when the losses of my sister and her dying unexpectedly in a car accident, my 9-year-old nephew dying unexpectedly, and it was like add those kind of things on when you already have that and you have pressures of finances, all these other things hitting you.
Yeah.
That's how people can begin to go deeper and deeper and deeper. They might not think that they'd ever be in that place, but
Mm.
when it happened to me, I saw the progression. And sometimes, and people will say, "Oh, a person that gets help, they are crazy." You used to hear that on
Mm.
movies and TV. So
Right.
then people don't want to speak up because they're like, "I don't want to be labeled as crazy or weak." And so they don't get the help that they need, even just by getting therapy and counseling.
Right.
And that was part of my thing. I was like, well, I'm a Christian. Why would I go get, therapy, or why would I get those things? But some things are so traumatic and so deep that you got to talk it out. And you need
Yes.
somebody that you love, or that's going to get, not even love, but if you have to get therapy, that they're going to care and listen and help you through that. Because some things you need help to walk it through. And I had to
Absolutely.
learn that too. I wasn't weak to get help.
No, it is not. It's actually, it takes courage and it takes strength to
Yes.
ask for help. I'm a recovering people pleaser myself. Um,
I love
and sometimes those tendencies still take over,
Yes,
right? And I want to be liked. And then
yeah,
I catch myself and I go, you know what? I want to like myself.
yes.
And this
Love,
is who I am. And
yes,
if they don't like it, that's fine. They don't have to like me because I
right.
like myself. And
Love
like you,
myself, but
it took me a
love.
long time to get there,
Yeah.
and, one of the things so d we did we speak about power poses when we first connected?
No, no.
Okay. So, for those of you watching, a power pose is there's Amy Cuddy is, got a TED Talk, and there's a 2-minute condensed version, there's a longer version as well. So, there's been studies on power poses. So, that's things like, you stand up tall with your arms like this because it's like Superman, right? Or arms on the hips, leaning over the desk. These are the high power poses. And the low power poses are things like, hunch shoulders, making yourself small, hiding, these kind of things. And they did a study on how quickly that can physiologically change your body. And people who went through a high stress interview that did the high power pose just before, all were invited for the second interview. Everyone with the low power pose was not. And what do people do before they're in an interview? They're sitting there on their phone, right? So small things like this, that these power poses, and saying these affirmations to yourself, reminding yourself, like, I like myself, and getting to a point where you can start to say, I love myself, right? And just building it up. It's step by step, right? Because when you're really in a dark place, it can be hard to just, do a 180 flip. It's like
Right, right,
carnivore to vegan. It doesn't really work.
right.
You'll set yourself up for failure. So that those small steps. So you had these cards, and what else did you do that, after your mentor told you this, how did you remind yourself of this daily? What were some of those small practices that you built into your life?
Um, Thank you. It's a good question. So, first one was that I was in charge. So I knew from that moment forward, when things would hit me, anxieties or fears, it's not going to work out, or afraid of people, all these different things. I had to remind myself by the self talk. So, beginning with the affirmations, and started with affirmations. Journaling was another thing. I learned that from my mentor. Write down 5 minutes every day, 5 minutes, all good, bad, and ugly. Time yourself, write it in the journal, then go back and read what you wrote, because that's a quick snapshot of what's going on in your mind.
Oh yeah.
So if you have that 5 minutes and then that's going on 24 hours, and you sit there beating yourself, I don't love myself, I'm a failure, you got that, it's changing the script. So
Mm.
I would write it down, I'd go back and I'd see what I wrote, and then I would put the opposite of that. So then
Ah,
I would be able to
yes.
empower myself for the day. So if it says I'm a loser, no, I win. Everything always works out for me. I'm financially, I'm freaking out about money. No, I have more than enough to pay all my bills, meet my obligations, and to help others. So it was like to
Yes.
begin to have the opposite change, because you can't get rid of the thought, but you can replace the thought.
Yes.
So changing the way that I was thinking with those positive affirmations began to empower me to change the vision, right? What's going
Yep.
on here? That began to help me. And I wanted to tell you that, and for our listeners, Shad Helmstetter, the book is called, sorry, where is it? He says, What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. That's the name of the book. Yeah. What to Say When You
Okay.
Talk to Yourself. Shad Helmstetter, Helmstetter. And so
Yep.
he says in there, like with the self talk, that by the time you're 18 years old, you've heard the word no 148,000 times.
Mm.
So you're already equipped to be a failure.
Yeah.
Like, in a lot of regards, whether you heard it from your teachers just telling you, or your parents say, don't put your hand in the socket, but you still have heard the word no. So it's very important to have this self talk. So he said, he has the self talk in all different areas. He says he has it in with self esteem. your body. You want to lose weight, he has ones on that.
Mm,
He has on solving problems. He has on loving yourself. All the different good sleep. Everyone. So what
good
I
sleep.
did is I recorded these, and then I have my own self talk that I've created myself, and I recorded on my phone.
Yes.
And then I listen to myself all during the night because they're on repeat. Or I'll have it as my alarm when I wake up in the morning. So I
Yeah.
hear myself with those self talks. Sometimes I'll even put my goals as my alarm for the
Yeah.
year. So I'm constantly reinforcing. I love Erica. I am successful. I don't, everything could be look the opposite.
Right.
I'm focusing on the new. So
Yes.
that's how I began to change the way that I think. And we say that as Christians, we change with the word of God, we change our thinking. It works for anybody. You just change that thought to the where you want to go, not where you're at. And so the whole thing with changing was that I began to say what I wanted, not what I saw.
I love that. And it's about accepting ourselves where we're at, as well as
Yes.
using that as the platform to continue to evolve and to get better,
Yes.
right? And saying that's okay. And next time I will do this, this, and this. And so
Yes.
I actually did a very similar exercise recently,
Mhm.
where we wrote out our life vision and
Mhm.
these kind of statements, overarching themes for our life. And I recorded myself, and first thing in the morning, before my feet hit the ground, I would hit play. And
Yes.
I'd listen to it because it's setting the tone for the day.
Yes.
So for those of you out there that are going, "Oh, this sounds a little bit woo-woo." Well, guess what? No, in neuroscience, this is actually the reticular activating system in your brain, RAS. You can go and Google it and you will be told the same thing, but it's the same mechanism that when you buy a red car, you notice all the other red cars
Right.
on the road.
Yep.
And all of a sudden you're pregnant, you notice all the other pregnant women. Well, there were always pregnant women, there were always red cars.
Yep.
Now you're just tuned into them. So you see them all the time. You're aware. And so when you make yourself aware of the fact that positive things can and do happen, that you are capable, that you can do it, when the moment comes, you're prepared and your thought will actually be of the positive rather than the negative. And it's really amazing how quickly that can take hold.
Mhm.
If you start your day by rewriting the narrative, flipping the script, you are now also looking for our brains like confirmation bias, right?
Right.
So you are now looking for things that prove you are successful, that prove you are able to relax, that prove that you can do the handstand, right? All of those things. And then you do it, you get the dopamine, you positively reinforce, and now we have a positive feedback loop rather than a negative one. So
Yes.
that is so powerful. I'm so glad that you said
Good.
that.
I want to tell you another story. There was she's a two-time Olympian, Christine Magnuson. Had the
Mhm.
opportunity to meet her at my local library some years ago, and she was talking about how how she even got to the Olympics and everything. Her
Yeah.
biggest thing was that she was like, I just wanted to be the best swimmer I could be. And so she said it was this one girl like that was better than her when she was in
Right.
high school. She was always like, "Well, I want to try to be better than her," but her goal was still to just be an excellent swimmer. Well, during this quest, she ended up being so good that they asked her to do the tryouts for the Olympics. Well, she ends up making those tryouts to be able to go to Beijing. Well, she goes there. Nobody has heard of her. They don't know anything about her. And she was saying that everything that she had was in her hands. So the whole community paid for her and sent her and her parents there. They raised the money to send her to Beijing. Her coach was the local coach that was in the high school. She didn't have this famous coach, the swimming coach. And she also had a mental coach. And this is what I wanted to talk about because earlier we were talking about those poses. Is
Yeah.
that she says that she had a mental coach. The mental coach said it's very important to think positive thoughts because when you're in the water, it actually makes you heavier when you think of losing thoughts and failure, that you're way heavier in the water. So it's interesting that the body poses, like you were saying, and
Yeah.
even mentally, that we actually are heavier. So that's why it's so important to lift ourselves up. And you hear that statement that says that we hold the weight of the world on our shoulders. And
Right.
to scientifically be proven, we're going to talk about Dr. Caroline Leaf. She talks about the mind that it's neuroplasticity. So
Yes.
what we have, it's pliable, it's moldable. That's why it's like it doesn't matter what it looks like. right now, you can change the direction of your life at this moment. Even right now, you said,
Absolutely.
I choose to be successful. You've changing the trajectory of your life. And
Right.
so every, we have our habits every 21 days, like you create takes 21 days and you reinforce it for two more cycles. I think it's like 66 days to finally solidify that new habit. So she was saying when we begin that, the brain actually creates a new branch. So it's like we begin to rewire our brain, our thinking. I'm sure you've heard of this.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
and it's like when you begin that new habit, it starts this little branch, and they show it. And you can actually see it when they do a photograph of the picture of the brain. And
Yes.
the more that you reinforce it, it creates this new path. So that negative path right here that says I'm a failure, or let's say a weight loss, I can't lose weight, I whatever, and you begin to say I am fit, physically fit, and you say it in the present tense. That's another thing about self-talk. You speak in
Yes.
the now, so everything should be I am enjoying. Like right now, I want a BMW, hot pink fuchsia convertible, and I say I am enjoying driving my BMW. That's what I say. I'm enjoying being, and I just made my goal weight that I had on my vision board a few days ago, but I would speak every day and I still speak it. I am fit, firm, and muscular, best shape of my life. And I've heard that from Terry Seville. She's very good about talking about affirmations and everything. So I have that on there and have J Lo's body with my picture on there. I mean, she's got lots
She
of
man, if I could look like that at when I'm her age, hallelujah. Right?
got that on there. You know what I mean? But it was like I speak in the now again. That reaffirms with that self-talk, speaking in the
Yeah.
present tense.
Language is
Really powerful.
powerful.
Yes.
That's why I'm so big on the etymology of words, understanding where they derive from, what's the root meaning of that word, because that allows us to understand the energy of it. And when we shift that narrative inside our heads, then we can start to make different choices, right? Because we feel differently about something.
Right.
And the reason why, having a vision board is so powerful is we are visual creatures, right? So, sometimes writing out words, it's still beneficial, but if you had the picture
Right.
of the thing, that's how our brains work. I was just watching, there's a new series on Netflix, narrated by Morgan Freeman,
Oh,
who's amazing, and
right.
it's all about our Earth, and it's the prehistoric era, so dinosaur age, through these 5 mass extinction events. I've learned these facts before. I've read articles, learned it in school, right? Ice age, this and that. But because of our technology now, they have recreated visually what the world would have looked like to our best estimate, right?
Mhm.
And of course, probably some imagination,
Yes.
what the dinosaurs looked like and all of those things. And I think that those 2 episodes I watched, I retained more information than I ever did in school, just
Mhm.
looking at words or maybe a picture,
Yes.
right? So having that vision board, I had something on mine earlier this year, which was talk on 10 stages by the end of the year. And that was before I really went all in on speaking.
Ah,
And by last month, it had already gone over that. And it was kind of a throwaway thing. So imagine if that was a throwaway thing, I didn't really look at it all the
right.
time, and yet it still happened. In the background, it's operating, right? And it's helping me make choices, saying yes to this opportunity and no to that, so I
Mhm.
can hone my focus. And
Yes.
that's really what you're doing is you're helping. These practices are to help set the system up for success.
Right. Yes,
Yeah.
that is so good. Yeah, the visual, and that's what drives you too. Like you were
Yeah.
saying, what helped to change too, because then it gave me a purpose.
Yes, exactly.
It gave me something to look. It gave me hope. It
And
gave
this is very often why when we graduate from a job, excuse me, from a degree, and then we don't find something in that degree, and we do something else, we've lost a bit of our purpose. Or
yes.
why transitioning, very often veterans, when they transition from military service to civilian life, they no longer have that same sense of purpose and combined vision and unity that they had within their branch, within their unit, their team. So designing that for yourself sometimes requires a bit of outside perspective, so working with a coach, re-investigating who you are, right? What are those things that bring you joy? I just had a gentleman tell me he picked up poetry again after 30 years, and he's about to start doing some open mic. He's working up his courage to go for open mic. And I was like, yes, I was
Yeah.
celebrating with him. It was so cool.
Yeah.
Um, And I think you and I spoke about this too, the, like, Seinfeldian method with the
Oh,
X's,
yes.
right?
Yes,
When you're
yes.
building a new habit.
I love that.
So,
You know,
James Clear has, Atomic Habits. That's another great book to help you with taking step-by-step action to making these visions and affirmations part of your daily life.
mhm. Here's another book that's been very helpful is Michael Hyatt. It says How to Have the Best Year Ever.
Okay?
I might have it Best Year Ever, I think it's called. But
I'll
what,
find it.
that was one of the first things that I had heard with his book was that when it comes to goals, because for years I'm very goal oriented, but then I was
Yeah,
still unfulfilled in certain things. I'm like, why am I not fulfilled in all things? One of the things I love about him is that he talks about all the areas. So it's like I think
yeah.
10 areas that he has. So he's
Okay?
in the vocational, what are you doing? What's happening in your friendships and your relationship? What's happening with you and your spouse? What's happening with your money? What's happening with the career? All those different things. It's like that's how you can begin to have a well-rounded life
Yes.
instead of focus. Because he says you can have all the money and have a great job, but then you have nobody to share it with.
Right, or
Or,
maybe your health is suffering,
or
and
your
that's
health, right?
something in
Yeah.
extreme jobs or, these prestigious jobs would be because most people label prestige as a lot of money or a title, right? These kind of older measures of success,
Mhm.
but in order to get there, they're sacrificing sleep, they're eating poorly,
Right.
and they're having major health disease or heart attacks and strokes in their 30s and 40s, and that should not be happening.
No.
Should not be.
Yeah. So that
Thank you for
also
sharing these amazing resources. I love it when people share books and resources. I put them up on the screen for everyone. I'll share the Amazon links as well afterwards. I'll put them in the comments.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was very helpful for me because I began to put the relationships because I was lacking in that. Then I was like, I'm gonna finally lose the rest of this weight. Just different things that I wanted to have, and so
Yeah.
now with even with the self talk, I have those affirmations. I have fun, fulfilling, satisfying relationships. That's something that I say every day. I enjoy, myself. I love myself. I'm
Yeah.
enjoying like so now I speak about all those areas with my affirmations. It takes me like at least 10-15 minutes with all I have like 4 pages of affirmations every day that I do. And sometimes it's like, oh, Erica, do we have to do this? Yes, we do every
Mm.
day. So that
Until it becomes your foundation.
yes, these are
Yes.
every day. Yours may, everybody listen, it might be only five, it may be one, because you might just be at the point that I want to just live, or I have hope. It might be that I'm hopeful for something to change. It might be something as simple as that. Don't discount that and say, well, I don't have these. No, I had to start with I'm in charge.
Yes.
From wanting to kill myself, I had to go. That was where I had to start. I'm
Right.
in charge. And from there I built to where I am today. So I just want to encourage those that are listening. Don't say, well, I don't have all that. And I'm listening to you and Sarah, I don't have this vision board. You know what? You just start with one goal and love your and say whether I look in the mirror and say, I love myself.
Yeah, and that can be hard for some people. I remember when I was going through a divorce and working on all of this self-love and this negative mental chatter that I had, I couldn't meet my own eyes in the mirror
Mm.
when I said certain things. And I worked my way up and
Yes.
I found, okay, what can I say? Maybe I love how I can solve problems. I
Mm.
love that I can read really quickly and that I'm a bookworm, right? And I started with those kind of characteristics about myself. And then it was able to evolve into I love my smile. I love myself, right? And I didn't
Yes.
look away and I built that comfort because especially based on what was modeled for you in your upbringing or maybe what you might have epigenetically expressing itself in your DNA, that might be difficult for you wherein it's not difficult for someone else or maybe right now it's okay. Later it might be something that you face. And so just being open to giving yourself that permission to try something different, right? That's really what it's about.
Yes, and that leads me into this. Thank you for saying the word permission because
Yes.
I created these affirmations. That was like a couple years ago that I was like getting bombarded all in my mind. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm laying in bed. It's dark in the room, and I just get up and I start to pray and everything. And I'm like, I'm tired of living this way. I'm tired, like with just certain areas, just what felt like no movement. And so I laid back down, and then I opened up my mouth, and then these affirmations just rolled out of me. And it started with, I give myself permission to love again. I give myself
Mm.
permission for people to love me. I give myself permission to be successful. I give myself, and so I have this whole thing, now I sell it because when I would do speaking, I would do this. People would be crying, they're all getting touched. They're like, where is that? I need that. So just first of all, just giving yourself permission just to say, I'm going to love me, whatever area it is that you haven't been, succeeding or whatever it is, just say the first word is give yourself permission.
Yes.
And that was another thing that was very empowering for me. Like I give myself permission because I used to be so like guarded off from people, from hurts or whatever fears. They're gonna love me, they're gonna accept. I give myself permission just to be myself, love myself, and let people
Absolutely.
love me, and open up my heart again.
And you know what's really powerful is writing it down. Remember how we used to get permission slips in school?
Oh,
So I learned that, and I do it a lot with my clients, and especially the men, and anyone who's kind of very type A. They feel a bit silly doing it,
uh-huh.
but every single time, as soon as they write the words, I give myself permission to take a nap. I give myself permission to drink my coffee without looking at my phone. They message me later, and they're like, "Wow, that was amazing. I don't think I've done that for 20 years." And I had to do that to myself. Like, here I am teaching other people.
Uh-huh.
And I started to realize all the books I was reading were nonfiction about productivity,
Oh
about
yes.
self help,
Mhm.
science, whatever. And so I wrote myself a permission slip to read fiction books. And now I'm reading fiction again. And it's so much fun.
Yeah.
So,
And that feels
whatever
so
you haven't been doing, guys and girls, write
yes.
yourself a permission slip about the most fun thing you've ever done and go and do it because it'll change your life.
It's so true. And since we're on the vein of self talk, that's what we're all about. I want to encourage everybody. There's this you probably heard of it before, this experiment that Dr. Masaru, Masaru, Emoto, Emoto.
Yes.
And he has these jars, right? So he has one that says, you put one, it says love. You have another one, you put the word hate on it, and then you have your third one, and you put ignore.
Yes.
And then you fill it with rice. So I put mine in rice. There's different ones that some say add rice or water or whatever, but I did rice, cooked rice, and the same amount for each one. I think it might have been a cup for each one, but you can Google it. So I did it. It's supposed to be for 30 days. So every day I would walk across these jars in my kitchen, and the love jar, I would say, I love you. And I'd say, "Yeah, you're the best." I'd speak all these wonderful things over the love jar. The hate jar, I said these really mean things, and it felt really bad, to say that, but I was like, I can't stand you, whatever, all this. And then the ignoring, I literally just would walk past and ignore the jar. And at the end of the 30 days, the love jar had no mold on it. The one that had the hate jar, all kinds of black and mold and yucky. And then
Yeah.
the ignore jar had some of it in there. But it
It
was like a visual for me because I actually did it. So
yes.
for those that say, what is Sarah and Erica talking about with the words, whatever, I don't do that experiment. And you will
Yeah.
see the power of your words, because our words have, first of all, power, but they actually are take up weight. Everything that's created, I'm sure you know this too, Sarah. Like this isn't. It looks like we have this, we could touch this, but it was all created. It's all created from words. Everything was created from a word, a
It's all
thought.
everything's energy. We
Yeah,
are all neutrons, protons, electrons, right? It's basic science, and actually we're 99.99% space. We're just vibrating at a certain frequency, which is why we have this experience. And then obviously certain things can change states, but we can't create or destroy anything completely, but we can transform the energy, which is the like first law of thermodynamics. So all we have to do is remember we can't destroy the words or the thought or the anxiety, but we can transform it.
right, right.
And that's really ultimately what we're saying here.
Yes, yes. And so it's very encouraging for me because you can shift, and you can, with affirmations, your potential is unlimited. Brian Tracy says that with affirmations, your potential is unlimited because there is no limit. The sky
Right.
is the limit. As much as you can imagine, you can still get more. But
Exactly.
by
Well, and the
changing,
sky's not the limit because I love space. So we're gonna say that the universe is the ever expanding
there is no
universe. There is no limit.
There you go. Right. Your potential is unlimited because that's what he actually says. I'll make sure I stay together. Your potential is unlimited. So yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's exciting for people to know that anything in life you could go from, like I said, even in a moment's time, in one
Yeah.
second's time, you can change that fast. And that's the part that is hopeful and encouraging for anyone listening. And that was what helped me.
I love that. Yeah, with each breath, you get the choice to do something different. You can deepen your breath, you can shorten, right? And so that's often something that's a good anchor for people, right?
Mhm.
As soon as you bring your awareness to your breath, are you breathing up in the chest, shallow breathing? That can lead to hyperventilation and you're not getting the full system, internal system clean out. Think of it like a disk cleanup on your computer, right? The more you deep breathe, the better you'll be. And I'll give a funny example. I was just at this conference, and one of the gentlemen that was about to speak was asking me how he could like relax and warm up for making sure his voice was great. And
Okay.
I said, okay, a lip trill is basically going
Oh, yes.
right, and it looks funny and it's silly. And I said, just do that, but he couldn't because he was like, I'm like, no, we're not whistling. Release all the tension. But even something like that, right? And we're laughing, we're having fun, but
Mhm.
that transforms a tense situation. He laughed and then he was able to do it because it diffused that tense energy. And
Mhm.
so, can you tell me a little bit more about how laughter and humor has helped you navigating some of these really tense and dark situations?
Well, one thing about my family is we laugh a lot. I feel like if you see me, you see my mom because she's every picture smile and laughing, and I believe that's what helped me get through so many traumatic things. Like
Yes,
laughter really is medicine to the body. It
yes.
does boost your self esteem. It makes the blood flow.
Serotonin,
Yes,
dopamine is
right. All
all
those things that make
increased.
you feel good, and it gives you. For me, it relieves the stress. It's
Yeah,
changing the perspective. It's
yeah,
changing from over here to something like happy, and it makes you lighter, so yeah,
absolutely.
laughter was one of my things that I've kept in my life, and that's what continues to this day. Everybody always says, oh, I love your smile, whatever. Like sometimes it was tears behind that smile, they didn't know, but it's like even if you smile and you don't really feel like smiling, you can trick yourself into, your body will say, oh, okay, we're light today, we're happy today, you can trick yourself until everything else lines up with that. So
Yeah, and it's
laughter.
contagious, right? Like, we see little kids all the time
Yes,
that one they have a little giggle, and then the next one giggles, and then it's just like this chain reaction that
right,
happens.
right,
And as adults, we for some reason think we have to be so serious all the time, and,
right,
we
right.
we don't allow ourselves. So even writing down, "I give myself permission to laugh today,"
Yes,
could be an amazing choice that you make that will change your entire experience today on Friday, December 15th,
right.
2023.
The other thing is too, when you say give yourself permission, like you started reading fiction books. Like my friend challenged me to watch a movie without multitasking.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that was, and it literally almost brought tears to my eyes. It was like a challenge she gave me some years ago. And I was like, she goes, no laptop on your legs, not you
Mhm.
thinking about your goals. Because I used to
No
think, well, if I'm not
phone.
doing that, then I'm being lazy and I'm not being productive. And all,
Oh,
but
yeah.
self-care, you must do the self-care. That's also a part of that in this time of affirmations and self-talk. You have to incorporate things that you enjoy and live life. So give yourself permission to live life and enjoy those things. So anyway, that 2-hour movie you thought would have been like 10 years long, okay? Because I was like,
Yes.
everything in me was just like screaming, like, oh, we're not doing enough. We're not, and I had to slow down and just say, Erica's gonna do that, like what is that? 6 days the Lord made the earth, and seventh he
Right.
rested. So even he
Yes.
rested, like, okay, well, I gotta rest. And so now I do that too. I incorporate things into my life that I enjoy without feeling guilty, not multitasking on a 20-minute bath, which I was doing that as well. And I had to be
Yeah.
challenged to slow
You
down,
know,
you
even our computers, like our phones, our computers, we need
yeah,
to restart them
reset.
because it will just go slowly and it won't function correctly, right? We've all had that experience where we're trying to do something and then everything freezes and you've got like the spinning circle of death and you're like,
Yes,
oh my gosh, I didn't save what's going to happen, right? And it's very stressful. But if we save regularly, if we regularly refresh the computer, we close all the tabs that we're not using for 5 weeks, right? It
yes.
works better. And we're the same way.
Yeah. I learned that too, even when with this health journey, because I lost the last 15 pounds since June. And I had a health coach, and I love hit workouts. Hit workouts, if anybody doesn't know, is you have these intervals and you do really high intense, and then you have what 15, 20 seconds to slow down, maybe 30, and then you go back. So that's the way it all is. And I've been doing that for years. And I just was like, yeah. And then he's like, okay, well, we're going to change the script. He's like, I want you to 30 minutes just walking. Maybe only
Mhm.
once a week a hit, maybe every 2 weeks a hit. I was like, whoa. And he was like, yeah, we're just gonna just do a regular walk. No, no, no. He says you can't do that with a car. You can't
Yeah.
drive your car like that to 60. He said that car, you're gonna tear up that car. He says, how many times do we do that with our body? And we
Yeah.
can even take that with our mind. How many times, like, we need to slow that mind down and say, hey, I'm in charge. We're not going to be anxious today. I tell my body when I'm feeling anxious or overwhelmed, I say, hey, I'll talk. I put my hand on myself. Hey, slow down. We're at peace today. I'm
Yeah.
in charge. And this is what we're doing today. This is the way the day is going to go. I'm not going to let my feelings dictate where we're going today. So I do a declaration in the day where we're going. And I do that through my affirmations and speaking those things. And the self-talk, with back to Shad Helmstetter, he said with self-talk, he says, have that down and on the low volume all through the day. He says, because your mind is, hearing that and it's still inputting it. It doesn't need to be just very faint. He said,
Right.
just have it on all day long. And he says, and your mind is just going to be going. So that's something else that I'm like, I feel so much better too when I just have that on. Sometimes
Yep.
I have books on, sometimes I have Bible on, my own affirmations on,
Or
and I
even just
have that.
pink noise, right? Just having that background frequency that's more
Yeah,
calming.
it's
So you
positive.
you can find different things that work for you. So if you don't, because some people, if they hear words, they lock into the words and they're not able to concentrate on what they're doing. So
Mhm,
having 5 to 8 megahertz is the frequency of our heart that magnetically we put out. That is
mm.
scientifically proven. Pink noise, there's brown noise, white noise. A lot of people use white noise machines to fall asleep. Pink
Yeah,
noise and brown noise are different frequencies. And
yeah.
so you can use that for focus and you can use that to help you calm the nervous system. Ultimately, all of these things that we're doing with this rewiring of the brain and rewriting the story is all about getting ourselves into the right state. And so that's really why exacting professionals, they want perfectionism, they want to go and they want to go fast. You can still go, you can still move very quickly, but we have to learn how to take those breaks, right? Even ultra marathon runners, they need fuel, they need restroom breaks. They don't run for 25 hours without going to the bathroom or
Mhm,
without stopping, right?
yeah.
So remembering that we are the same. I loved your use of the car analogy, right? If
Yes.
you're just revving really high the entire time, you're going to burn that
You gotta
engine
work.
out. You're going to burn your gears, your
Yeah,
brakes, everything. And then later you're going to be wondering like, why couldn't I stop before I hit the wall?
right.
Right? And
Mhm.
that's a very powerful metaphor for a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah.
Ericka, this has been so helpful. I see a lot of people commenting that they have gotten a lot of takeaways from today. I wanted to ask you, what do you think your superpower is?
Well, I mentioned it before, choice.
Choice.
I'm in charge.
Beautiful.
That was
I love that.
that's what's changed it all for me.
And I love that, the origin story, that was not something you would have ever considered your superpower. And now it is.
Yes.
And so, that's, was it Oprah who said, your mess is your message?
Mm,
Right?
I'm not
I
sure.
think it might have been her. Maybe she had someone on her show, but it's very true. Very often, what we go through in life, those difficult, dark, sticky, yucky moments become our superpowers later.
Mhm,
And it's in that navigation and that deciding that we then can uncover them. So that's really powerful.
mhm.
Who would you say is on your personal board of directors? Who are those people, whether they're fictional, non-fictional, alive, from the past? Who is it that you turn to help you with making those choices and giving you different perspectives?
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Well, my mentor that I keep talking about, her name's Pastor Nancy Shannon. She's been instrumental in my life. My mom, of course, Maria Moore. Let me make sure I say her name because she's like, they don't know mom. Maria Moore. Um, my friends, Videla Douglas, Davina. I have Amanda Fico. There's so many. Even new ones that I just met, Renee. There's a woman I listen to all the time, Terry Seville, Tony Robbins. These are people that almost every single day I'm listening to, that has encouraged me and to keep moving forward to what they already see in me. That's the thing. A lot of people will see you, and I don't know about you, but I can look at the process and
Mhm.
they're already at the finish line. They're like, Erica, I already see you here. And I'm
Yeah,
over here like, I only see right. What's going on? They're like, I already see this. So like, you need those people to surround you that already see the end result
absolutely.
of you.
That's the beauty of mentorship, right? And it's not this formal thing that most people have this idea. It's like, "Oh, I have to sit down and do a coaching session." It's like, no, it's those people that can reflect back to you what they already see and what they know is possible for you. It's just like a parent with a child, right? When we're 5, we don't know that we can ride the bike without training wheels,
Right.
but our parents know, and
Right.
so they help guide us to get there. And so finding those people that are already where you want to be,
Yes.
because that by nature, you are the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So
Right.
that's why I love asking this question, because it helps to hone in who we wanna bring into our life.
Yes. Yes. And where you want to go. Like there's still people I want to meet that I
Yeah.
down. Yeah.
Right, so this helps inform you too. Oh, maybe I don't have a advisor in this area, right? In the
Mhm.
category that you mentioned from this book, the
Mhm.
very like all the 10 categories we need
Yes.
to consider, and
Mhm.
now you have awareness. Oh, I can start looking for someone here.
Mhm.
And again, once you put the awareness on, your reticular activating system will help you find it.
Yes. Could you put that in the notes? That what you just said. What do you? How do you say that?
The reticular activating
Yeah.
system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to look that up myself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me pull that up. And while I pull that up, I'd
Yes.
love to know excuse me, what do you believe is how you best represent humanity or serve humanity? And this is a question that stretches people, but it's really, if I was another being and I came to this planet,
Uh,
what do I see in humanity that you help represent, and what you're doing to serve?
well, what I believe I do to serve is to bring hope, and that you can overcome, because that one of the things I'm known is the overcomer specialist. So as an
Mm,
overcomer specialist, that I've gotten hit with some different things in my life. My family's gotten hit with things, but I've overcome them, and I continue to overcome until the day I die. There will be
yeah,
something that I will overcome and show that you can make it through. And so to be a person that shows hope, that shows endurance, that shows that change is possible. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing one thing, that you can change today. Just like me finally getting that weight goal of 6 years on my vision board. you know,
yeah,
you can still do it. And to do the impossible. Because things that I'm doing now, I never thought I qualified for or I could do it. And just because I just kept going and changing the script to say and believing in myself and believing that I could do anything, that's what I want people to see. They can do the impossible, no matter what age in life, no matter how many bad decisions you've made. That
yeah.
you can do whatever's in your heart.
I love that. Yes, one step at a time, one degree at a time. We
Yes,
don't need to change the whole kitchen sink at once.
right.
And I mean, there are 80-year-olds doing gymnastic competitions, and there are 70-year-olds getting PhDs. I mean, nothing is impossible. It's just about the choice. May not be as quick as you expect, but expectations are the thief of joy. So allowing yourself to be where your feet are at. I love it.
Hmm.
Erica, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. If any of the listeners would like to connect with you and learn a little bit more, or reach out, where can they find you?
They can head over to my website, erickagloriousmore.com. My Instagram is the same thing, and my LinkedIn, Ericka Glorious Moore. So you can find me there on my Facebook, Instagram, and my website. So love to see you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Erica. It has been a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Sarah.
And for everyone listening, we'll be back next week with my dear friend Tristan Punnett. He's on the South Texas Business Aviation Association board with me for the mentorship committee. And we are going to be talking about storytelling and the journeys that our life takes, and how we might sometimes deviate from what we expect, but we always find ourselves on the right path. Thank you so much again, Erica. We will have you again soon, and we will see everybody else in the lounge next week.
Okay, thank you. Bye.